Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We are on book 3, part 11 for the Law of One raw material. And I'm not going to give too much of an intro for these next two sections because I want you guys to kind of absorb the information, and I'll explain it and give it my take at the end of this video, because it does talk about Kundalini, but they don't use that word, and the researchers are really trying to get their mind around the chakra system and the Kabbalah, which gets more in depth in the next book. And I'm really excited for that part of it because I just love studying those attributes of the Kabbalah. So let's just get into it. Here is part 11 of book 3 of the Law of One raw material.
The Law of One, Book 3, Session 73, October 21st, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the One Infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you please give me an indication of the instrument's condition? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated with the exception of the vital energy level, which is distorted more nearly towards that which is normal for this entity. Questioner, has the banishing ritual that we have performed been helpful for this contact? Ra, I am Ra. The ritual described has gained with each working in making efficacious the purity of contact needed not only for the raw contact, but for any working of the adept. Questioner, thank you. I would like to thank Ra at this time for the opportunity to be of service to those on this sphere who would want to have the information that we gain here. You stated that free will, one pointed in service to others, had the potential of alerting a great mass of light strength. I assume that the same holds precisely true for the service to self-polarity. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect, but subtly so. In invocation and evocation of what may be termed negative entities or qualities, the expression alerts the positively oriented equivalent. However, those upon the service to others path wait to be called and can only send love. Questioner, what I was trying to get at was that this alerting of light strength is, as I see it, a process that must be totally a function of free will, as you say, and as the desire and will and purity of desire of the adept increases, the alerting of light strength increases. Is this part of it the same for both the positive and negative potentials, and am I correct with this statement? Ra, I am Ra. To avoid confusion, we shall simply restate for clarity your correct assumption. Those who are upon the service to others path may call upon the light strength in direct proportion to the strength and purity of their will to serve. Those upon the service to self path may call upon the dark strength in direct proportion to the strength and purity of their will to serve. Questioner, I will undoubtedly make many errors in my statements today because what I am trying to do is guess at how this works, and let you correct me. In considering the exercise of the middle pillar, I have thought it might be wrong in that in it the adept sees, or visualizes the light moving downward from the crown chakra down to the feet. Ra has stated that the Creator enters from the feet and moves upward, that this spiraling light enters from the feet and moves upward. It seems to me that the adept alerting the light strength, in visualizing the use of this, would visualize it entering the feet and energizing first the red energy center and then moving upward through the energy centers in that fashion. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner, could you tell me where I am wrong in that statement? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. Questioner, would you please do that? Ra, I am Ra. There are two concepts with which you deal. The first is the great way of the development of the light in the microcosmic mind-body-spirit. It is assumed that an adept will have its energy centers functioning smoothly and in a balanced manner, to its best effort before a magical working. All magical workings are based upon evocation and/or invocation. The first invocation of any magical working is that invocation of the magical personality, as you are familiar with this term. In the working of which you speak, the first station is the beginning of the invocation of this magical personality, which is invoked by the motion of putting on something. Since you do not have an item of apparel or talisman, the gesture which you have made is appropriate. The second station is the evocation of the great cross of life. This is an extension of the magical personality to become the creator. Again, all invocations and evocations are drawn through the violet energy center. This may then be continued towards whatever energy centers are desired to be used. Questioner: then will you speak of the difference between the spiraling light that enters through the feet and the light invoked through the crown chakra? Ra, I am Ra. The action of the upward spiraling light drawn by the will to meet the inner light of the one infinite creator may be likened to the beating of the heart and the movement of the muscles surrounding the lungs, and all the other functions of the parasympathetic nervous system. The calling of the adept may be likened to those nerve and muscle actions over which the mind-body-spirit complex has conscious control. Questioner: previously you stated that where the two directions meet you have a measure of the development of the particular mind-body-spirit complex. Am I correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner: it would seem to me that the visualization of the invocation would be dependent upon what the use was to be of the light. The use could be for healing, communication, or for the general awareness of the creation and the creator. Would you please speak on this process and my correctness in making this assumption? Ra, I am Ra. We shall offer some thoughts, though it is doubtful that we may exhaust this subject. Each visualization, regardless of the point of the working, begins with some work within the indigo ray. As you may be aware, the ritual which you have begun is completely working within the indigo ray. This is well, for it is the gateway. From this beginning light may be invoked for communication or for healing. You may note that in the ritual which we offered you to properly begin the raw workings, the first focus is upon the creator. We would further note a point which is both subtle and of some interest. The upward spiraling light developed in its path by the will, and ultimately reaching in high place of mating with the inward fire of the one creator, still is only preparation for the work upon the mind-body-spirit which may be done by the adept. There is some crystallization of the energy centers used during each working so that the magician becomes more and more that which it seeks. More importantly, the time-space-mind-body-spirit analog, which is evoked as the magical personality, has its only opportunity to gain rapidly from the experience of the catalytic action available to the third density space-time, mind-body-spirit. Thus the adept is aiding the creator greatly by offering great catalyst to a greater portion of the creation which is identified as the mind-body-spirit totality of an entity. Questioner: desire and will are the factors in this process. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. We would add one quality. In the magical personality, desire, will, and polarity are the keys. Questioner: many so-called evangelists which we have in our society at present have great desire and very great will, and possibly great polarity, but it seems to me that in many cases that there is a lack of awareness that creates a less than effective working in the magical sense. Am I correct in this analysis? Ra, I am Ra. You are partially correct. In examining the polarity of a service to others, working the free will must be seen as paramount. Those entities of which you speak are attempting to generate positive changes in consciousness while abridging free will. This causes the blockage of the magical nature of the working, except in those cases wherein an entity freely desires to accept the working of the evangelist, as you have called it. Questioner: what was the orientation with respect to this type of communication for the one known as Jesus of Nazareth? Ra, I am Ra. You may have read some of this entity's workings. It offered itself as teacher to those mind-body-spirit complexes which gathered to hear, and even then spoke as through a veil so as to leave room for those not wishing to hear. When this entity was asked to heal, it oftentimes did so, always ending the working with two admonitions. Firstly, that the entity healed had been healed by its faith, that is, its ability to allow and accept changes through the violet ray into the gateway of intelligent energy. Secondly, saying always, tell no one. These are the workings which attempt the maximal quality of free will while maintaining fidelity to the positive purity of the working. Questioner: an observation of the working itself by another entity would seem to me to partially abridge free will in that a seemingly magical occurrence had taken place as the result of the working of an adept. This could be extended to any phenomenon which is other than normal or acceptable. Could you speak on this paradox that is immediately the problem of anyone doing healing? Ra, I am Ra. We are humble messengers of the law of one. To us there are no paradoxes. The workings which seem magical and, therefore, seem to infringe upon free will do not, in themselves, do so. For the distortions of perception are as many as the witnesses, and each witness sees what it desires to see. Infringement upon free will occurs in this circumstance only if the entity doing the working ascribes the authorship of this event to itself or its own skills. He who states that no working comes from it but only through it is not infringing upon free will. Questioner: the one known as Jesus accumulated 12 disciples. What was his purpose in having these disciples with him? Ra: I am Ra. What is the purpose of teach learning if there be no learned teachers? Those drawn to this entity were accepted by this entity without regard for any outcome. This entity accepted the honor duty placed upon it by its nature and its sense that to speak was its mission. Questioner: in the exercise of the fire, I assume the healer would be working with the same energy that we spoke of as entering through the crown chakra. Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct with some additional notation necessary for your thought in continuing this line of study. When the magical personality has been seated in the green ray energy center for healing work, the energy then may be seen to be the crystalline center through which body energy is channeled. Thus this particular form of healing uses both the energy of the adept and the energy of the upward spiraling light. As the green ray center becomes more brilliant, and we would note this brilliance does not imply overactivation but rather crystallization, the energy of the green ray center of the body complex spirals twice, firstly, clockwise from the green ray energy center to the right shoulder, through the head, the right elbow, down through the solar plexus, and to the left hand. This sweeps all the body complex energy into a channel which then rotates the great circle clockwise again from right. We correct this instrument from the left to the feet, to the right hand, to the crown, to the left hand, and so forth. Thus the incoming body energy, crystallized, regularized, and channeled by the adept's personality reaching to the green ray energy center, may then pour out the combined energies of the adept, which is incarnate, thus offering the service of healing to an entity, requesting that service. This basic situation is accomplished as well when there is an entity which is working through a channel to heal. Questioner: can you tell me how this transfer of light, I believe it would affect the patient to be healed? Ra: I am Ra. The effect is that of polarization. The entity may or may not accept any percentage of this polarized life energy which is being offered. In the occasion of the laying on of hands, this energy is more specifically channeled and the opportunity for acceptance of this energy, similarly more specific. It may be seen that the King's Chamber effect is not attempted in this form of working but rather the addition to one, whose energies are low, of the opportunity for the building up of those energies. Many of your distortions called illnesses may be aided by such means. Questioner: as a general statement which you can correct, the overall picture, as I see it, of the healer and patient is that the one to be healed has, because of a blockage in one of the energy centers or more, we will just consider one particular problem. Because of this energy center blockage, the upward spiraling light, which creates one of the 7 bodies, has been blocked from the maintenance of that body. And this has resulted in the distortion from the perfection of that body which we call disease or a bodily anomaly, which is other than perfect. The healer, having suitably configured its energy centers, is able to channel light, the downward pouring light, through its properly configured energy centers to the one to be healed. If the one to be healed has the mental configuration of acceptance of this light, the light then enters the physical complex and reconfigures the distortion that is created by the original blockage. I am sure that I have made some mistakes in all this. Would you please correct them? Ra: I am Ra. Your mistakes were small. We would not, at this time, attempt a great deal of refinement of that statement as there is preliminary material which will undoubtedly come forward. We may say that there are various forms of healing. In many, only the energy of the adept is used. In the exercise of fire, some physical complex energy is also channeled. We might note further that when the one wishing to be healed, though sincere, remains unhealed, as you call this distortion, you may consider pre-incarnative choices, and your more helpful aid to such an entity may be the suggestion that it meditate upon the affirmative uses of whatever limitations it might experience. We would also note that in these cases the indigo ray workings are often of aid. Other than these notes, we do not wish to further comment upon your statement at this working. Questioner. It seems to me that the primary thing of importance for those on the service to others path is the development of an attitude which I can only describe as a vibration. This attitude would be developed through meditation, ritual, and the developing appreciation for the creation or creator, which results in a state of mind that can only be expressed by me as an increase in vibration or oneness with all. Could you expand and correct that statement? Ra, I am Ra. We shall not correct this statement, but shall expand upon it by suggesting that to those qualities you may add the living day by day and moment by moment, for the true adept lives more and more as it is. Questioner, thank you. Could you tell me of the number of possible energy transfers between two or more mind-body-spirit complexes? Is it very large, or are there few? Ra, I am Ra. The number is infinite, for is not each mind-body-spirit complex unique? Questioner, could you define this statement energy transfer between two mind-body-spirit complexes? Ra, I am Ra. This will be the last full query of this working. This entity still has transferred energy available, but we find rapidly increasing distortions towards pain in the neck, the dorsal area, and the wrists and manual appendages. The physical energy transfer may be done numerous ways. We shall give 2 examples. Each begins with some sense of the self as creator or in some way the magical personality being invoked. This may be consciously or unconsciously done. Firstly, that exercise of which we have spoken called the exercise of fire, this is, through physical energy transfer, not that which is deeply involved in the body complex combinations. Thusly the transfer is subtle and each transfer unique in what is offered and what is accepted. At this point we may note that this is the cause for the infinite array of possible energy transfers. The second energy transfer of which we would speak is the sexual energy transfer. This takes place upon a non-magical level by all those entities which vibrate green ray active. It is possible, as in the case of this instrument which dedicates itself to the service of the one infinite creator, to further refine this energy transfer. When the other self also dedicates itself in service to the one infinite creator, the transfer is doubled. Then the amount of energy transferred is dependent only upon the amount of polarized sexual energy created and released. There are refinements from this point onward leading to the realm of the high sexual magic. In the realm of the mental bodies there are variations of mental energy transferred. This is, again, dependent upon the knowledge sought and the knowledge offered. The most common mental energy transfer is that of the teacher and the pupil. The amount of energy is dependent upon the quality of this offering upon the part of the teacher, and regards the purity of the desire to serve, and the quality of information offered and, upon the part of the student. The purity of the desire to learn and the quality of the mind vibratory complex, which receives knowledge. Another form of mental energy transfer is that of the listener and the speaker. When the speaker is experiencing mental emotional complex distortions towards anguish, sorrow, or other mental pain, from what we have said before, you may perhaps garner knowledge of the variations possible in this transfer. The spiritual energy transfers are at the heart of all energy transfers, as a knowledge of self and other self as creator is paramount, and this is spiritual work. The varieties of spiritual energy transfer include those things of which we have spoken this day, as we spoke upon the subject of the adept. Are there any brief queries before we leave this working? Questioner, only if there is anything we can do to improve the comfort of the instrument and the contact, and secondly, is there anything that you wish not published in today's session? Ra, I am Ra. We call your attention to 2 items. Firstly, it is well that the candle which spirals 10 degrees each working be never allowed to gutter, as this would cause imbalance in the alignment of the appurtenances in their protective role for this instrument. Secondly, we might suggest attention to the neck area so that the cushion upon which it is supported be more comfortable. This difficulty has abbreviated many workings. We thank you, my friends, for your conscientiousness and your fastidiousness with regard to these appurtenances which, as our workings proceed, seems to be increasing. Secondly, your decisions are completely your own as to that material which you may wish published from this working. I am Ra. I leave you glorying in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. The Law of One, Book 3, Session 74, October 28, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, would you first please give me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated. Questioner, before we get to new material, in the last session there seems to be a small error that I corrected then having to do with this statement. No working comes from it, but only through it. Was this an error in the transmission? What caused this? Ra, I am Ra. This instrument, while fully open to our narrowband contact, at times experiences a sudden strengthening of the distortion which you call pain. This weakens the contact momentarily. This type of increased distortion has been occurring in this instrument's bodily complex with more frequency in the time period, which you may term the previous fortnight. Although it is not normally a phenomenon which causes difficulties in transmission, it did so twice in the previous working. Both times it was necessary to correct or rectify the contact. Questioner, could you please describe the trance state? I am somewhat confused as to how, in a trance, pain can affect the instrument since I was of the opinion that there would be no feeling of pain by the bodily complex. In the trance state? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. The instrument has no awareness of this or other sensations. However, we of Ra use the yellow ray activated physical complex as a channel through which to speak. As the mind-body-spirit complex of the instrument leaves this physical shell in our keeping, it is finely adjusted to our contact. However, the distortion which you call pain, when sufficiently severe, mitigates against proper contact and, when the increased distortion is violent, can cause the tuning of the channel to waver. This tuning must then be corrected, which we may do as the instrument offers us this opportunity freely. Questioner, in a previous session there was a question on the archetypical mind that was not fully answered. I would like to continue with the answer to that question. Could you please continue with that, or will it be necessary for me to read the entire question over again? Ra, I am Ra. As a general practice, it is well to vibrate the query at the same spacetime as the answer is desired. However, in this case it is acceptable to us that a note be inserted at this point in your recording of these sound vibratory complexes, referring to the location of the query in previous workings. The query, though thoughtful, is in some degree falling short of the realization of the nature of the archetypical mind. We may not teach learn for any other to the extent that we become learn teachers. Therefore, we shall make some general notations upon this interesting subject and allow the questioner to consider and further refine any queries. The archetypical mind may be defined as that mind which is peculiar to the logos of this planetary sphere. Thusly, unlike the great cosmic all-mind, it contains the material which it pleased the logos to offer as refinements to the great cosmic beingness. The archetypical mind, then, is that which contains all facets which may affect mind or experience. The magician was named as a significant archetype. However, it was not recognized that this portion of the archetypical mind represents not a portion of the deep subconscious, but the conscious mind and more especially the will. The archetype called by some the high priestess, then, is the corresponding intuitive or subconscious faculty. Let us observe the entity as it is in relationship to the archetypical mind. You may consider the possibilities of utilizing the correspondences between the mind-body-spirit in microcosm and the archetypical mind-body-spirit closely approaching the Creator. For instance, in your ritual performed to purify this place you use the term ve gabura. It is a correct assumption that this is a portion or aspect of the one infinite Creator. However, there are various correspondences with the archetypical mind which may be more and more refined by the adept. V. Gabura is the correspondence of Michael, of Mars, of the positive, of maleness. V. Gedula has correspondences to Jupiter, to femaleness, to the negative, to that portion of the tree of life concerned with Oriole. We could go forward with more and more refinements of these two entries into the archetypical mind. We could discuss color correspondences, relationships with other archetypes, and so forth. This is the work of the adept, not the teach-learner. We may only suggest that there are systems of study which may address themselves to the aspects of the archetypical mind. and it is well to choose one and study carefully. It is more nearly well if the adept go beyond whatever has been written and make such correspondences, that the archetype can be called upon at will. Questioner, I have a statement here that I am going to make and let you correct. I see that the disciplines of the personality feed the indigo ray energy center and affect the power of the white magician, by unblocking the lower energy centers, allowing for the free flow of the upward spiraling light to reach the indigo center. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner, will you please correct me? Ra, I am Ra. The indigo center is indeed most important for the work of the adept. However, it cannot, no matter how crystallized, correct to any extent whatsoever imbalances or blockages in other energy centers. They must needs be cleared seriatim from red upwards. Questioner, I'm not sure exactly if I understand this. The question is, how do disciplines of the personality feed the indigo ray energy center and affect the power of the white magician? Does that question make sense? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. Questioner, would you answer it please? Ra, I am Ra. We would be happy to answer this query. We understood the previous query as being of other import. The indigo ray is the ray of the adept. There is an identification between the crystallization of that energy center and the improvement of the working of the mind-body-spirit as it begins to transcend space-time balancing and to enter the combined realms of space-time and time-space. Questioner, let me see if I have a wrong opinion here of the effect of disciplines of the personality. I was assuming that the discipline of the personality to, shall we say, have a balanced attitude toward a single fellow entity would properly clear and balance, to some extent, the orange ray energy center. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. We cannot say that you speak incorrectly, but merely less than completely. The disciplined personality, when faced with an other self, has all centers balanced according to its unique balance. Thusly the other self looks in a mirror seeing itself. Questioner, the disciplines of the personality are the paramount work of any who have become consciously aware of the process of evolution. Am I correct on that statement? Ra, I am Ra. Quite. Questioner, what I am trying to get at is how these disciplines affect the energy centers and the power of the white magician. Will you tell me how that works? Ra, I am Ra. The heart of the discipline of the personality is threefold. 1. Know yourself. 2. Accept yourself. 3. Become the creator. The third step is that step which, when accomplished, renders one the most humble servant of all, transparent in personality, and completely able to know and accept other selves. In relation to the pursuit of the magical working, the continuing discipline of the personality involves the adept in knowing itself, accepting itself, and thus clearing the path towards the great indigo gateway to the creator. To become the creator is to become all that there is. There is, then, no personality in the sense with which the adept begins its learned teaching. As the consciousness of the indigo ray becomes more crystalline, more work may be done, more may be expressed from intelligent infinity. Questioner, you stated that a working of service to others has the potential of alerting a great mass of light strength. Could you describe just exactly how this works and what the uses of this would be? Ra, I am Ra. There are sound vibratory complexes, which act much like the dialing of your telephone. When they are appropriately vibrated with accompanying will and concentration, it is as though many upon your metaphysical, or inner planes received a telephone call. This call they answer by their attention to your working. Questioner, there are many of these. The ones most obvious in our society are those used in the church rather than those used by the magical adept. What is the difference in the effect in those used in our various churches and those specifically magical incantations used by the adept? Ra, I am Ra. If all in your churches were adepts consciously full of will, of seeking, of concentration, of conscious knowledge of the calling, there would be no difference. The efficacy of the calling is a function of the magical qualities of those who call, that is, their desire to seek the altered state of consciousness desired. Questioner, in selecting the protective ritual, we finally agreed upon the banishing ritual of the lesser pentagram. I assume that these sound vibratory complexes are of the type of which you speak for the alerting of those on the inner planes. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. If we had constructed a ritual of our own with words used for the first time in this sequence of protection, what would have been the relative merit of this with respect to the ritual that we chose? Ra, I am Ra. It would be less. In constructing ritual, it is well to study the body of written work which is available for names of positive, or service to others' power, are available. Questioner. I will make an analogy to the loudness of the ringing of the telephone in using the ritual as the efficiency of the practitioners. Using the ritual. I see several things affecting the efficiency of the ritual. First, the desire of the practitioners to serve, their ability to invoke the magical personality, their ability to visualize while performing the ritual. And let me ask you as to the relative importance of those items and how each may be intensified? Ra, I am Ra. This query borders upon overspecificity. It is most important for the adept to feel its own growth as teach-learner. We may only say that you correctly surmise the paramount import of the magical personality. This is a study in itself. With the appropriate emotional will, polarity, and purity, work may be done with or without proper sound vibration complexes. However, there is no need for the blunt instrument when the scalpel is available. Questioner. I assume that the reason that the rituals that have been used previously are of effect is that these words have built a bias in consciousness of those who have worked in these areas so that those who are of a distortion of mind that we seek will respond to imprint in consciousness of this series of words. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is, to a great extent, correct. The exception is the sounding of some of what you call your Hebrew and some of what you call you Sanskrit vowels. These sound vibration complexes have power before time and space and represent configurations of light which build all that there is. Questioner, why do these sounds have this property? Ra, I am Ra. The correspondence in vibratory complex is mathematical. At this time we have enough transferred energy for one full query. Questioner, how did the users of these sounds, Sanskrit and Hebrew, determine what these sounds were? Ra, I am Ra. In the case of the Hebrew, that entity known as Yahweh aided this knowledge through impression, upon the material of genetic coding which became language, as you call it. In the case of Sanskrit, the sound vibrations are pure due to the lack of previous, what you call, alphabet or letter naming. Thus the sound vibration complexes seem to fall into place as from the logos. This was a more, shall we say, natural or unaided situation or process. We would at this time make note of the incident in the previous working where our contact was incorrectly placed for a short period, and was then corrected. In the exercise of the fire you may see the initial spiral clockwise from the green ray energy center, through the shoulders and head, then through the elbows, then to the left hand. The channel had been corrected before the remainder of this answer was completed. Is there a brief query at this time? Questioner, is there anything that we could do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. All is well. The instrument continues in some pain, as you call this distortion. The neck area remains most distorted, although the changes have been, to a small degree, helpful. The alignments are good. We would leave you now, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, glorying and rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.
I hope you guys enjoyed those last two sections. So let's break it down a little bit. The researchers were trying to figure out how our chakra system gets plugged into source consciousness. And they were confused a little bit because, when our soul, if you can say, when our vibrational frequencies from source consciousness enters our body, it's like the tree of life, Kabbalah, that enters in and it cascades downwards, right? And they were trying to figure out, well, how come, because before when we were talking about the chakra system, it was from the ground up, like your feet up, from red ray to orange ray to yellow ray to green ray. And so they were confused on how source energy comes into our bodies. And in because when we want to get back into source energy, we travel up through the chakras. And when our vibrational essence comes into our body, it comes from the top down. Now, it's important when we want to activate and get closer to our higher self, go back to source consciousness, we do have to ground ourselves first in our lower chakra centers. And our green ray, our heart chakra center, is extremely important because it's like the bridge that you have to get to and go over and activate to get into your upper chakra systems and back to source consciousness. And they talked a lot about the indigo ray, right? Our third eye, and how much our third eye really coincides with white magic, right? Like when our third eye is activated, and that's the indigo ray, right? When it's activated, it plays a real part in white magic. And that's what they were trying to get at, because when your third eye is activated, you can become psychic. You can tap into the Akashic records. You have more focus. And when you have good polarity, you can really download information and things like that. And they got kind of confused because they started to think that they can use their indigo ray to activate the other chakra systems. And what Ra was trying to explain is that that's not how it works. You cannot use your third eye, your indigo ray, to activate other chakra systems, right? And they got into depth about how you activate your indigo ray is by your green ray, the bridge, the heart center. And when you focus on things in your body, it does help activate your chakra system. So you put your focus in things you can control. You can control your breathing and you can control your heart. You can relax all your muscles. This is how you can activate energy centers within your body. And the green ray, it spirals in a clockwise position, right? So Ra was talking about how if you can visualize a spinning of the green ray of your heart, and slow your breathing down and slow your heart rate down, and you'll be able to feel the energy turn into your right shoulder, to your left shoulder, to your left arm, and down to your elbows. And you can go back and listen to it, and Rob was really trying to explain how to activate it. And the energy centers that come in to activate our bodies come in from source energy from the top down, not from the bottom up. But when we want to reunite with source energy, we have to start from the bottom to go up through the chakra system. And they talked about exchanging energy, because when you're in service to others, you can exchange energy through different types of mediums. Okay, the first one obviously is when you focus your energy towards something. You've heard this before about, when you send someone love, to make them feel better. That actually works when you focus on even water and put love and light into water. So just simply focusing on something gives it energy, and there's energy exchanges as well. And obviously it's sex is a major one. Mutual sex, you amplify it. It's like a double bounce almost. When it's unconsensual sex, it would just be kind of pulling energy from someone. But when it's mutual sex, it's amplified, right? And so that was another big one. And the teachers and students, when someone is teaching and someone is learning, and that exchange of energy is another major one, obviously. Even when someone is speaking and another person is listening, that's a major one. And that's why I really love these recordings, because I when I listen to them, I feel like I'm absorbing energy from the words that are given. And at the very end, they did talk about how certain vibratory words, mathematically, the hertz of the words that are said can give incredible focus and energy to you. That's why, how Tibetan monks, the that they use, that is a very specific and intense vibratory sound. Just an interesting fact is that our sun, our star, our Logos, the astronauts, when they go into space and they face the sun and they record the vibratory sound that the sun makes, it's an over and over again, like a pulse. So I don't know how the Tibetan monks knew that and incorporated that in their culture, but I thought it was just really interesting, and it's one of my favorite sounds to listen to when I'm meditating. I just love the ums. It puts me in that sweet spot for trance, and I love it. So I hope this explanation for these last two sessions helps. Please leave me your questions. I am working on a few videos to answer some of the emails that I've gotten, and I really appreciate you guys for all your support. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.